Recorded live in Balcatta, Western Australia, the hoon capital of the world, this is Talkin' Power.
Gap is what happens when you hold to the floor and crush the man next to you. There's space in between your back lumbar and your front member. We, in the South, we refer to it as the gap band.
Well, I think, Formula One is for grown-ups.
Shut the grade on this one, Rex. Here's the guts.
When we start following the song is rattle the players, we're gonna get down the chairs!
Yes, listen, please, 51 words.
Please, mate.
So, what about the sideways? You've got a race in your own lane. Now he's on the grass, he brings it back. That's a great driving there.
Torque and Power, your motoring and motorsport podcast.
Okay, welcome to the Talk and Power podcast. We are up to episode 27. I am Nick DeChembry.
And I am Gonzo.
How are you, Simon?
Good, mate, good. Tired.
Tired? Yeah,
Yeah,
it's been
yeah.
a big weekend. We've just had the Easter weekend.
Yeah, it's just a newborn child that's tiring.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I don't think I could ever appreciate how tiring it is and how little they sleep and how they sleep at inappropriate times and are awake in inappropriate times. But I got to tell you, my brothers all have children. They're grown up. Some are in their 30s now. I don't think there's any way of describing the feeling that you get when your baby wraps its arms around you. It is the most incredible feeling. Like, I've been lucky, had a fortunate life, raced door slammer, raced motorbikes, raced off-road, done all sorts of things, won several races over the years, but nothing compares to that hug. It's just incredible. Anyway, we had quite a controversial episode.
We did.
Last
we had
episode.
Yeah, it was
So
a bit.
I just want to clarify something that I said. I guess tongue in cheek. I made reference to HMS, and I think that it came out the way I said it, that it sounded like Jeff Chasty and Jamie Chasty wrote the rules for the class. So that's absolutely incorrect, and I would never want to take anything away from the achievements that those guys, absolutely incredible effort, national records, race wins, championships, etc. So what the reference I was making is that if you think that you've got a combination that you don't want to run in Group 3, right? Then you should sit down and write a set of rules and put it to Andra as an Andra member, which you should be if you're racing at the Motorplex. You have the right to put rule proposals in. Yeah. Andra will set an index and a minimum record, and then you can race Group 2, which you can, allows you to drive it out the back door and try and run a PB on every pass, basically. So and I got to tell you, I think we probably were a little bit harsh on the Radial guys. I did get, obviously there's been a couple of comments, on our page.
Yeah, that's correct.
Regarding what we said. I did get a lot of support from a lot of racers, some that actually run in the Radial series, saying that, what you guys said was true. But I thought about it on the way here. I thought that really, when you look at the Radial movement right now, it's kind of like the Wild Bunch was, that evolved into, evolved into two classes. It evolved into Supercharged Outlaws, right, and Top Door Slammer. Now, what Victor did, and this is something that to any of the Radial guys that are listening, you should listen to this clearly and have a good think about this. What Victor did was, he had the exhibition deal, which is a lot like what's going on with the Motorplex and the Kenda series.
Yeah, the Kenda 660 series.
Yep. So they're kind of running that with the Queensland Drag Racing Championship in the same manner that the Motorplex was running a Radial deal here. Obviously, we only had the one track here, so they can't, travel anywhere. Hopefully, we'll have a couple more tracks coming online in WA. There is talk of it. So what Victor did was he took the infancy of Door Slammer, which we often quote that famous race with John Zapier and Brenda McSweeney in the final there. He took cars that were actually, running in Group 2, bundled them together. They had performance that was close and took them on tour around Australia. And then he sat down and wrote a set of rules, found a series sponsor, and then sold the whole package to Andra on its merits, and it became a Group 1, like a heads-up class. And as it's evolved now into what it is, which is on par, arguably the best shown drag racing in Australia, right? So the opportunity is there for the Radial guys to do the same thing. Now, Victor was very smart because that very first season that they ran around Australia, he got, I believe it was John Shelby and Kurt Coons.
Yeah, that's correct.
Right.
And I think... Yeah, I think
he
that,
had
definitely those
Torkelson,
two, and Torkelson may have been in the fray as well.
Yeah, I think that may have been the next year, right?
Or Scotty Cannon was the
Scotty Cannon came a bit later on in the piece, but by bringing two well-known American racers out here to run the series, right? And even though that first season, a lot of the cars weren't 100% to the rules. They were given 12 months or whatever to sort it out. So I believe that the Gats car had no rear suspension. John Zapier's car had no rear suspension because that was kind of where Door Slammer guys, were headed. They were building rigid cars basically with, a funny car with a Door Slammer body, opening doors. And anyway, so I think the opportunity is there for the Radial guys to do something like that. And to give the class some credibility because at that last Kenda event, or in qualifying for that Kenda event, Perry Bullivant went a 409 at 197, which is pretty stout. That's he would have qualified 29th at the Sweet 16, which doesn't sound good because it was a 16 car cutoff, but nonetheless, it's in the fray. It wouldn't have been at the bottom. You know what I mean? He wouldn't have qualified last. So I was probably a little bit harsh on the guys. In comparison, there are classes there. That car, I believe, I could be wrong, and if anyone wants to correct me, I'm sure they will. I believe that used to be Peter Pisadilius's old car. Like I said, I could be wrong. And that ran in it used to be AA API, but now they've put a new class in for AA. So BB APIA, right, which has got a 6.5 pound per cube weight break. And that car at Sydney was in the finals of comp. And I think that was one of the few events that he ran it in comp, right? It wasn't running radials back then. That car was actually an Outlaw 10.5 car, and it was brought over here as a Pro Street car. But because the old Pro Street rules specified a standard cam location, and that had a rocket block, which has a raised cam, they would never allow it in there, right? So, just for those of you that don't understand how Group 2 works, most of the classes have pounds per cubic inch. The import classes have a minimum weight, depending on their engine. So at 6.5 pounds per cube, to put it in perspective, if you were running, say, 363 cubes around there, you would need to weigh 2,360 pounds, right? Now, Pete was able to go all the way to the finals and ran... I'm sure that he ran under the record. I'm sure he ran 660 in qualifying or possibly in elimination rounds. The minimum for that class is 685. So there are turbo classes there already. Now, if the Radial guys, feel that they've got a potential Group 2 or even Group 1 class, then, that's what they should be doing. Now, with the Kenda deal, like I said, that was an outstanding performance by... Perry Bullivant, and I believe there was a blown car, so that's a twin turbo car. I believe there was a blown car that also ran in the 4.0s. Is that Is that correct? So the for those of you that don't follow the Kenda Radial riot, so my understanding, and it's very hard to get any sort of information about this, is that they had proposed these classes. So they had the 660 Radial Rebels, the Limited 275, the Outlaw 235, the Radial Renegades, the Radial Rumble, and the Radial Rockets. So the way this set of rules worked is basically the Radial Rebels are fairly unlimited. No alters, roadsters, dragsters, funny cars, street rods allowed. So basically you could get a door slammer or something like that, as long as it's got a 315 60 15 radial on it, it's allowed to run. The 275 rules were more or less the same, except limited modifications. It says here in the rules that with stock suspension style cars on a 275 60. Now, stock suspension style, I guess, I don't know exactly what that means, but they're very sort of loose rules. The 235 is basically the same thing, but on a 235 tyre. Then the Radial Renegades and Radial Rumble are fixed index classes. So 550 half track, like, they only race to 660, so 550 index, which would be like 770, somewhere around there, if you ran the quarter. And the Radial Rumble is a 630 index, which would be like a 940, I imagine, somewhere around there. And the Radial Rockets was a motorcycle class. Now, from what I can find of the results, which Perry Bullivant won what they're calling the Radial Combat, it seems that they ran Radial Combat, Radial Wars, Radial Renegade, and Radial Rumble. So we know that Radial Rumble and Radial Renegade are fixed index classes, kind of like Supergas. Well, basically Supergas, I guess. The Radial Wars, I'm not sure what that is. I'm assuming that they were undersubscribed in the 275 and 235 categories, and they basically threw them together. And I'm assuming that Radial Rebels is Radial Combat, or it's a mixture of those three classes. So I guess they're trying to get something happening. There's some standout performance, and unfortunately this is the problem that you've got, when you're trying to get this something like this off the ground. You've got one set of cars at the pointy end of the field that are excelling, like Perry Bullivant, and I'm not sure who the other car was. I think if you go to the drag news, Lee Ryan, sorry, I apologise for Nick.
Sorry to all the Craig Ryans out there.
Yeah, in the 4.0s.
It was Lee Ryan.
And kind of, there's not really much else sort of going on there. There are some standouts though, right? So I had a quick look today, just so I could know what I was talking about, right? So we could draw some comparisons. So over east, a car running out of Danilo Performance. It's a VL Commodore on a 275. It's gone 761 181, which is pretty stout considering it's a 3 litre. And we've also got another car out of Queensland that I struggled to find any information on, but it's running in the 770s on a 235. So there's some quick radial cars in this country.
Yep.
The thing is having enough cars to be able to fill all the classes.
Yep.
That's where I see, and be competitive, you know what I mean? Like, not have 2-3 seconds between a top qualifier and a bottom qualifier. So that's where I see the problem. Maybe it's going to change. I mean, there is some tough cars being built in Sydney, but we just have to wait and see. Now, I'd just like to make the point too. X275, the actual name X275, belongs to John Sears, who was the founder of the X275. The rules for X275 are phenomenal. It is ridiculous how many pages of rules there are. It truly, going down to details like if you're running this particular brand of turbo in this series, you have to, add an extra 50, or you can lose 50, or if you've got a sheet metal intake over a cast manifold, if your valve angle is, factory or not. Incredible set of rules, right? Now, the standouts in the US, this is obviously 8th Mile, are the Broader brothers, right? Yep. With their Mustang. Now, they have run turbo combos, nitrous combos, and their latest deals are blown combos. So prolific has this been that the decision has been made to ban the combo. Right? Now, in Australia, under the current rules, so the rules have been updated since we posted our video, right? We're still allowed to run a 1071 blower, so we're in the clear. Yep. Right? We're allowed to do some crazy modifications now too, but anyway. But we're still keeping it to the original rules because that was the deal. Under the American rules now, this car was restricted to an 871, right? It's a small block, I believe. I believe it's a standard deck height deal. It's currently got to weigh 2750, right? The blower on this car is a very special blower. It was built by Chuck Ford specifically for these guys. Now, for those of you who don't know who Chuck Ford is, many, many years ago, a merchant banker by the name of Mike Ashley, came into Pro Mod and he had prolific dominance. And his crew chief was Chuck Ford. Now, Chuck Ford actually designed a lot of the changes that happened to the Hemi cylinder heads over the last few generations. Yeah. So what he did was he got a Hemi head, he modified it how he wanted, and then he went around to see the guys who were making the heads and said, can you make this up? Yeah. Like with drawings or whatever. And they basically stole this technology, which pissed Mike Ashley off to no end. So what Mike Ashley did was he set him up, Chuck Ford, with this machine shop, right? And Chuck Ford, makes all this really cool stuff. Mike Ashley went on to run Nitro Funny Car, right? But Chuck Ford's continued developing Pro Mod stuff. And one of the things that he develops is superchargers. Now, for those of you that know a little bit about superchargers, in America they're restricted to a 1471 on the blown combos, right? A Roots 1471. It's a high helix, retro, etc., and they're restricted to 16% overdrive, I believe, at the moment. They did allow 20, but they went into the 60s, and the turbo guys got nervous. I don't know. NHRA restricted it anyway. So the way it works is, and I only found this out a couple of days ago. I was talking to one of my friends in the US, and he was telling me the deal. I had heard rumours that you lease the blowers. So back when, I was getting right into drag racing, there was the lease program had just come out with a pro stock engine. So you'd pay X amount of hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars for the season. And you got to the racetrack and your engine was in a crate. You fitted it to the car, you ran it, and then you put it back in the crate, and they took it back to service it, and then at the next race your engine would be there. Well, in Pro Mod, they do that with the blowers. Right?
Really?
Yeah. Okay. So apparently, for 10 races, it's about $200,000 to lease a blower.
Wow.
Right?
Okay.
So our main man, Stevie Fast, he has managed to somehow... So for those of you that don't know, the main blower suppliers are Albilis, Troy Critchley, ex-Australian Troy Critchley, Chuck Ford, right, and I think there's one more that I've missed there, but Stevie has managed to buy 2 of these superchargers. How much do you reckon?
Well, you told me, so I'm tainted. So I couldn't believe it.
That was a question for the audience, right? $450,000 is what my buddy in the US told me that Stevie Fast paid for two 1471s. Now, you know, whether it's true or not, I mean, I think that is a phenomenal amount of money. And if anyone's in the market for a 1471 High Helix Retro, I've got one at work. I'll sell it to you for a bargain basement $6,500, right? So I guess the technology is in building these things lighter, making the cases stiffer, the entry, the way the air, you know, because there is a definite relationship between that entry, the exit, and the overdrive, and they have little drop-ins that, you know, for different overdrives. Apparently, this is what I've been told. So, can you imagine how much the Broader Brothers 871 would cost?
Yeah, from Chuck Ford.
It scares me to think about it. You know.
Yeah.
So, now the thing is, you know, do we think that it's fair or unfair? That they got banned. They went 435, 164. The argument was that, you know, it was way quicker than everyone else, but their argument, and I agree with their argument, is that they're only a 100th of a second quicker in the back half. And if we're going to talk about horsepower, we've got to talk about the back half.
Back half, that's
right?
correct. Yep.
Okay, so if that's the case, then these guys are just smarter than everyone else in the front half, right? Should they be penalised? So, you know, at this point in time, they have been. There's some talk about they're going to throw some weight on the car. It is a unique combination. There's three of these blown combos, the EFI root supercharged deals running in the X275. But the thing is, these set of rules that John Sears has developed, they are very, very, you know, intricate rules. And it really, I mean, these cars are pretty standard and they're limited to a single turbo. There's all these limitations on them. So when you consider the performances, and just for the record, as far as Outlaw 275 goes, right? So there's still a set of rules, but they're more lax than the X275. Manny Bajinga is the record holder, I believe. Still holds the quarter mile record at 6:48 with a single 98 mil, right? So, you know, I think that what these guys need to do is they need to get together and they either got to say, well, we're going to persist with these classes, but we're going to come up with some sort of rule structure, or maybe just have one class. And you know, hopefully that gets prescribed enough that you'll have your 8 cars, and be able to, you know, make it a like door slammer. You know, I mean, the thing that stopped door slammer, you know, we sometimes get over 20 cars showing up to qualify, and it's still only an 8-car field because you need to have a strong, you know, field to be able to have the cream at the top. And the Sweet 16 is no different to that, where there was 38 cars, right? And, you know, only the top 16 get to race. And the spread from number 1 spot to number 16 is 1.4 tenths.
Here's a little interesting fact as well. Jeff Sitton, as you remember, qualified number 1 for Lights Out 9. Lights Out 9 was on the 28th of Feb or 27th of Feb. The Sweet 16 was only a month later, so 4 weeks later. He wouldn't have qualified with that. With his number 1 spot, he would not have qualified in the 16.
He wouldn't have made the cut. Right, from number 1. But
he did make the cut.
He did make the cut, but this is the thing. What were the weather conditions?
Okay, I can answer that as well. So the run where Mickey, the run we'll probably never forget, the 362.
Yeah, so let's just start there. For those of you that don't know, the radial world got turned upside down. If it wasn't enough that Mark Mickey, who owns the car again, Nick?
Jason Carter.
Driving Jason Carter's car that he tunes. And Mark Mickey's from M&M Transmissions, arguably the best Turbo 400 trans guys in the world. Fred from ProTrans sells a lot of their stuff over here. I've used some of their components, and it's really nice stuff. Really, you can see that a racer is building the stuff, because just the way he's thought about things like the ceiling rings wearing and metal sleeves and so on. So he tunes it, he does the work on the car, and it's got one of his transmissions and converters in it. So the 362 was prolific, but the mile an hour that he ran earlier on, 221 mile an hour. So he basically had, I think it was 12 mile an hour on his nearest. Actually, looking at this, 216.
Yeah, that's Dwayne Mills, was it? Yeah, Daniel Farris, the twin turbo.
So that's
Corvette.
That's 6 mile an hour. Still prolific, and not a Hemi as you would expect. A conventional style headed big block Chev.
Yep.
In a Chevy Malibu, which would arguably be the most unaerodynamic car, like in the league of the XY.
It is. It's got a very square front end.
I think it's the first car that children learn to draw.
Yeah, it is. It is. That just to answer your question, the 62 was run at 100 feet corrected.
Above.
100 feet above. Yeah. So it was unseasonably cool there as still, even though they're heading into they're in spring, but it was still quite cool. But yeah, it was 100 feet corrected.
So we had two turbo cars at the top end.
Yep, that's correct.
Yep. And then our man Stevie Fast.
Yeah, so the two KDR cars were next. So Jeff Sitton and Steve Jackson.
Yeah.
Blowing. Then a nitrous car. Jamie Hancock did really well. So a 68, sorry, was it? Yeah, 68 from Jamie Hancock.
And that's a nitrous car.
Yeah, a nitrous Firebird. Then we had Dwayne Mills in the turbo Camaro. He would go through to the final. Anyway, that's just the top 6 there, basically. So we had a pretty good spread, but
so the just to put it in perspective, you would have to go down to 7th spot to see a car that was running in the 370s.
That's correct. Yeah. So the 60s, there was the old benchmark, and it got smashed to pieces. Basically, we had 3 go into the 60s in the first round of qualifying. So it was it was a pay-per-view deal. I didn't end up subscribing because it was on at inconvenient times in the morning, so I didn't end up getting it. For those of you that are interested, Competition Plus have a summary of the race on their YouTube channel, so you can go back there and see all the basically all of round 1, all of round 2, round 3, and the finals as well in all the races.
So yeah, Mark Mickey took out the race.
He did. Yeah.
The $101,000, 101,000 reasons.
Do you know how that was paid? It was paid in
10-cent pieces.
No, 5,050 $20 bills in a clear container.
God, that sounds like something Donald Long would do.
Yep, that's what he did.
So just to put some comparison on this, right? The blown cars are C rotors, if you didn't know that, and 125 or 127 over. That's the overdrive. So 2.25 or 2.27 times engine speed is what the supercharger's turning at. So the door slammers run a D rotor, which is a smaller supercharger, and they're limited to 106 over. So 2.06 times the crank speed, so it's spinning quite a lot slower. Now, the 400 Thunder event was held at Adelaide, right? And it is interesting to compare the times, right? So, big tyre, slightly heavier, I believe. Yeah. and a little bit less overdrive. So John Zapier went a 379 in the final, and that was low ET. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yep.
Low ET to defeat Paul Mahoyat's 386. Now, the reason they were running the 8th was because strong wind made it unsafe for them to run the full 1,000 foot.
Yep.
So Zap's win over the Moit's team puts him within 24 points now with 2 more rounds.
2 more rounds, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
So it is an interesting comparison of, the times 362. Now, a lot of people are going to say, well, I mean, that's incredible for a 315 radial, but you need to understand that the track is prepared specifically for the radial and the cars are set up specifically for radial racing. So, it is a different deal. And there was a post on Facebook by someone, I'm assuming that was in the Mark Mickey crew, suggesting that they had over 70 pounds boost in now whether it's true or not, I don't know. But I mean, a door slammer, a good door slammer with a good blower will make 50 pounds, and you need to turn that blower.
Yeah.
So you're using, I've calculated you use about 800 horsepower to turn the blower. Now, obviously back pressure in the exhaust on the turbo, whatever the deal is, you would imagine would use some horsepower, but another 20 pounds boost would make a bit of a difference. So now the big question is with the radial deal, I mean, you saw how quick they reacted to the Border Brothers banning their combination. Like, they didn't put weight on them, they just banned it, right? Is that, what's going to happen now? Because 221 mile an hour, are they going to put weight on the turbo cars? There's an event, I believe, this weekend.
No, there was one last weekend. Radial Revenge, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, but there was that didn't really get anywhere close to those sort of numbers, to be honest, and it was a lot of the same cars as well.
Okay.
I just think the favourable weather conditions really had it going their way, and the fact that they had 9 qualifying sessions as well really enhanced their opportunity to go into the 60s.
Now, it's interesting to note Steve Jackson wasted no time because he got gapped. He got gapped.
Yeah.
He had a wager with Mark Mickey.
That's correct.
During qualifying.
Yeah.
I'll let you tell the story.
No, it was a $10,000 bet that he's lost. He lost. Unfortunately, he made the bet on the run that Mark Mickey did the 62 on. So he got gapped quite significantly. I think Stevie had some dramas with the car as well. But he's gone now and betted him. He's made another wager with Mark Mickey for Woo stock, where he's betting $10,000 to $2,000 bet. So if Mark Mickey's to win, he gets $10,000. If Stevie's to win, he's only to pay $2,000. So it'd be interesting to see. I think he's confident that was just a one-off, but I think Stevie is in a position. I think Stevie's backed himself into a corner where he can't be seen as not doing these bets. I really do.
I don't know. Maybe he found something.
Yeah. Anyway, it'll be interesting to see. I wouldn't have thought that the Duck will be changing the rules. He's not that sort of guy. Really,
so
to act that quickly.
The thing is, though, while the 400 Thunder was being run, is the same time that Sweet 16 was on. Yeah.
Yep, that's correct. Yeah.
And Stevie Fast, I believe his tuner.
Billy Stockland.
Is Billy Stockland. And Billy Stockland, I believe, was seen on the start line at Adelaide. So, what happened there?
Well, you have it on good authority. It was in Adelaide. So that kind of surprises me, to be honest. But
well, I guess we're going to see the 400 Thunder footage soon.
I mean, if you have it on good authority, it's on good authority. I mean, he was there, obviously, in Adelaide. And I guess Paul's obviously paying the bills. And maybe Stevie hadn't booked him in sufficient time. I know the Sweet 16, that was done in about June or July last year. That deal went through. Who knows? Maybe Paul's booking ahead in advance.
Don't know.
Only guess.
Don't know.
It was April 1st, just the other day, and I was amazed by the amount of April Fool's Day jokes that were floating about this year. I don't know if you saw any of them come through. It was quite amusing, actually.
You know I never get on Facebook, man.
No, there was some of them weren't on Facebook. My favourite was.
Hang on a sec. Where were they then?
The NHRA had this one on their website.
Oh.
So the NHRA.
So just so I'm clear about this, unless I'm researching for an article, the only thing I get to see is the innards of transmissions or the baby's formula.
Fair enough.
There is nothing in between.
Well, NHRA had a really good one going. They had it was a proper full media press release with a video speaking with a number of drivers that were all in on the act. That Z-Max was going 6 wide.
This crunching noise you can hear in the background is me eating pretzels because I don't get to see these things very often.
So I actually found that one quite amusing, that the Z-Max was going 6 wide. I thought to myself, how the hell on earth is that going to work? That would never work in a pink fit, not with a 16-car field. Anyway.
But, like, 2 cars go through now, so you just have 3 go through.
Yeah, but then when you get to the semi, or how does the next round go?
Well, you've got 6.
Yeah, so but it doesn't. The maths doesn't work for a 16 car.
I don't know, maybe they're going to change it to a 24.
Anyway, it was a joke, and then after that, they had they relived some of that's been 20 years that NHRA have been doing April Fool's Day jokes.
Were any of them funny?
No, not really. Anyway, I was amused by that one. Anyway, the other one was Aston Martin's entry into the Monster Jam, debuting an Aston Martin monster truck. That was quite good.
See, I could see that. I reckon if they don't do it, someone's going to do it now, because you know what Americans are like. So the Formula One logo changing back to the old one.
Yeah.
I don't even think that's funny. That's something they need to do. They need to do that.
Then, my favourite is this one here. MG announced that their new MG VS SUV would be running on alpaca poo. So that was actually a proper full media press release, that one. I was quite amused by that one.
See, now if the Green Party had announced that, I'd believe it.
No, yeah, we would. But anyway, I was amused by that one.
But MG could do that because they use alpaca fur inside for the interior, don't they?
I think so.
So...
another one was Honda releasing. Now, Honda took to a CRV with an angle grinder and actually released photos of this. They took to one of their CRVs and turned it into a Roadster, chopped the roof off, and they actually made this statement saying, purely for sunnier climates and therefore completely useless for the 2-day British summer, which traditionally occurs in May. So I thought that was quite good from Honda.
Bit harsh. Was there public backlash in England about that?
No, I don't think so, nah. And then my second favourite, I guess, Mr. Mad running a 598 at 249 mile an hour. Now, that was quite an elaborate hoax from those guys at, I don't know the name of their team.
C&V Performance?
No, it wasn't them. It was their. It was a very, like, they'd even done up the scoreboard with the times on there. It was quite an elaborate hoax, that one. But that was quite good.
But that car has gone 666.
That's correct. Yeah. That's no joke. Yeah, the car's no joke, I think.
So and correct me if I'm wrong. It has driven around Sydney.
Yeah, that's correct. Yep.
There's footage of it driving across the Harbour Bridge.
Yep.
Harry's Cafe de Wills. If you're ever visiting Sydney, I highly recommend you go and check it out, and then you can ring me up and say, "Why'd you send us there for?" but especially if you're into pies, the pie floaters. If you don't know what a pie floater is, don't worry about it.
And Disneyland new amusement park opening in Perth. That one, I got some amusement out of that one as well.
So that's definitely not happening.
Nah.
Oh, damn.
It's a joke, that one.
What about, is Donald Trump building Twin Towers here? Is that true? No, it's the Chinese that are doing that. As soon as they get it past council.
As soon as they get it through the city of Stirling.
All right, so...
this isn't a joke.
Yeah.
Kevin Schwantz.
Yes, this let's on to something that's exciting, crazy, and amazing. Kevin Schwantz, who must be 100 years old now... Because I remember when I was a kid, I used to watch him.
Yeah, that's right.
He's making a return to MotoGP.
He is in the Moto2 series. Yeah, it's excellent. I think it's great news. I think if it attracts, a number of a bit of interest from outside of its normal demographic, or some people that may have left the sport back into it, I can't see it being a bad thing.
I think they call this a midlife crisis.
It could well be.
There is an Australian rider, Troy Bayliss,
I remember him well.
who I watched a couple of weeks ago, racing in the Australian Superbike Championship.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell you what, he made those young guys work for it. I think he ended up coming in second or third.
Yep.
But just incredible. He hasn't lost any of the skill. It was like he'd, been riding the whole time.
He's a talented rider, but Troy always was.
And Schwantz.
Yep.
So do we know how old Kevin Schwantz is?
53 years old.
53 years old. So there's still time for me to go.
There is.
Race
There's
MotoGP.
Plenty of time for you. Plenty. So he'll be making his comeback. It's only one race at this stage. It'll be the Grand Prix of America. So that's a bit later on in the year. Their next race is on the next weekend at the Autodrome in Argentina.
I cannot wait. I have been hanging out for this season to get cracking. So, Formula One.
Formula One, I just want to touch on how we can talk about Sebastian winning the race all day long, really, but I think the main interest is how Lewis lost the race, and it appears as though it was...
Nah, listen. I haven't been able to work this out, but can you please explain to me, how Daniel Ricciardo got the penalty?
Okay. You saw the penalty?
No, I didn't.
Okay, so he was basically going too fast on a red flag period. But it's not measured in speed. It is measured in time. So his time
through the sectors.
Yeah.
Yes.
His time was too low. He needed to be above a minimum time and was not.
Whose fault is that? I mean, you can't blame it on him, surely. Shouldn't the team have been onto this? Shouldn't their statistician been going,
I would have
hey, Dan, slow down?
Yeah, I would have thought so. He did slow down, but it just wasn't enough.
So this is kind of like when you run at the Motorplex with no roll cage. Same sort of thing. You got to sort of, do your 60 foot or 330 and then get off. Because now they're onto you. If you go too fast to half track, they're like, nah, go home, roll cage.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Well, yeah, so that's how Daniel got his penalty, basically. Interestingly enough, so the lead up to the race, we had it was the Lewis Hamilton show. It really was. Valtteri crashed the car heavily in qualifying and started from the rear of the grid. They had to do a gearbox change and a number of other changes in their car. So he started from the rear of the grid, but Lewis was starting from the front and had a significant lead during the race, but not enough.
So while the race was, we were leading up to the race, or just after the race, Channel 44 had a documentary on him from when he first started in Formula One. He was such a nice kid when he started.
Yeah.
So humble. How did he turn into such an asshole?
I don't know. I really don't know.
He's like a spoiled brat now.
Yeah, he really took it to a new level at this race. I think that he basically expected to win this race, especially in their lead up and their such strong...
so for those of you that don't follow Formula One, it's kind of like playing chess these days, right? So you got your two cars out there, and if you're in the Mercedes team, the Ferrari team, or the Red Bull team, you kind of got to keep an eye on what the other guys are doing, and you got to sort of hedge your bets. So if they go to pit, you've got to send one of your cars in, because if there's no safety car, then you're screwed. You're going to miss your opportunity to pit and stay in a competitive position. So what Ferrari's statistician did was he sent Raikkonen in to pit, and that forced Lewis Hamilton's hand. He had to come in and pit. Vettel stayed out, and then there was a safety car, or a virtual safety car, I think it was.
Yeah.
Now, when the virtual safety car comes out, the lap times slow down. So essentially, the amount of time that you spend in the pits while they're servicing your vehicle, relative to the amount of time it takes to go around and do a lap, it means that effectively you're spending less time in the pits, even though you're spending the same amount of time, but you're losing less track position. And that's what won him the race, straight out.
Yeah.
It and this really, it makes it very difficult to see good racing when it comes down to, I mean, don't get me wrong, I watched it and I was on the edge of my seat, particularly in the closing laps, cheering Daniel on, hoping that he was going to get Raikkonen. I mean, you're torn between your love of Ferrari and you want to see the West Australian get up and, get a podium at his home race. But it is kind of a weird thing when it comes down to these types of decisions, and I don't know. I think the good things that I saw is that McLaren's got a race car now.
Yeah, they do. They're on. They're on now.
I think the Red Bull deal, particularly. What was that?
Sorry, that's just my other computer sending an email.
I think the Red Bull team, particularly Daniel Ricciardo's car, definitely competitive. Real shame. It was a 4-position penalty that he copped.
So, no, 3. Sorry, it was
3 position.
3, yeah.
He started in 8th. Yeah.
Yep.
So and that first turn, they all bunch up. Like you gotta be in. If you're in the top 3, you've sort of got a good chance to get out clean.
Yeah.
But it is what it is.
The importance of Valtteri's crash is underlined in the race results as well. Not just him finishing 8th, but it was more to the point that he wasn't there to run. I guess I don't want to use the word blocker.
No, that's the word.
Yeah.
So basically, what would normally have happened is that when Raikkonen went into pit, Bottas would go in the pit, right, and he would be shepherding.
Yeah,
I guess would be the word. Raikkonen, and then Lewis could wait out, and if there was a safety car, and even if there wasn't, he could go in. They would have to basically throw the dice who's going to go in first, who's going to make the other ones move. But look, it was fantastic to see Ferrari win, and Melbourne received that win so well. It was just a sea of red.
Yeah.
A lot of Ferrari fans there, a lot of Italians there. A lot of West Australians there, a lot of Italian West Australians there. So, great result. Would have loved to have seen Daniel up there, but what are you going to do?
Yeah.
What are you going to do? We'll have to wait till next year. There is a lot of talk about Ferrari. There are so many people putting, the suggestion out there, and this is within the Formula One fraternity, saying you need to hire this kid.
There are Ferrari customers, and I know of Ferrari customers that heavily fund the Daniel Ricciardo. Well, he doesn't need funding now, but they were heavy backers of Daniel back in the day. Not just his father, but other people as well that are quite well known West Australians that are Ferrari customers, have their names on particular
dealerships,
lists as well, and have offered particular Ferrari automobiles when they come on sale that are heavy supporters of Daniel. So I'm hoping that we can see that in the next,
Yeah, I mean, he's 29, yeah?
Yeah.
So it's got to happen
it's
soon.
It's creeping up on him. It's
got to happen soon, It'd be a shame if he doesn't win a championship, because I tell you what, in terms of ability, you got to hand it to that kid. He can drive.
Yeah, certainly can.
No ifs or buts there. Anyway.
All right, we have question time. I did a live feed last night asking for questions. We've got quite a few, and there might be a few more there. I have to check before we finish up. But anyway, now our first question is from Stephen. He asks, is the Camry project still happening?
Yeah, it's
most definitely.
It's 100%. I have been flat out at work, and I kid you not, I don't even know how I'm going to get through the next few weeks. I'm probably going to have to sleep at the workshop. and obviously we want to do a bit of work on the XY so we can get some more videos up there. But I'm waiting on some... like I've pretty much nutted everything out. So where we're at now, I've got everything to put the short motor together. The rings are filed and so on and so forth. The cylinder heads, I found some valves that are going to fit, and they're around at Speed Torque, waiting to get machined. We bought some valves that have got the right stem, collet location, and length, and we need to turn the heads down to make them fit in the Camry heads. And then once I've got the heads, the valves in there, then I want to get rid of the shim over bucket setup and go to a solid bucket setup.
Yep.
So you got to understand that this motor, although it is kind of loosely the same as some other Toyota motors, it's not like you can just go get some 2J stuff or even the 4. We would have been better off doing the 4-cylinder, to be honest.
Yeah.
Which is crazy, but yeah, it's still going to happen. And we've got some bigger tyres for the front, and we'll get it out there. We'll have some fun with it. Make some more stupid videos.
Yeah. That's good fun.
So,
all right, Joe asks us. I know Joe. Hello, Simon and Nick. I'm just wondering if you could please talk about collecting model cars, but let me know so I can get my girlfriend to listen as well. She thinks it's for little boys.
Yeah,
probably would have worded that question a little bit differently, Joe. But the model cars, right? They would have to be very, very rich little boys. Some of the limited edition Bianchi cars have gone through the roof. Yeah.
Like they're in the thousands now.
That's right.
It's funny that he should ask this question because I've got some NHRA models. A friend of mine, Jason, used to bring them in from the US. He's got an incredible collection, and he would buy lots, and if he had double ups, he would then on sell them. And I had a guy come in today, and he was pestering me about them, because they're just sitting on top of the cupboard. They're not displayed or anything like that. So, yes, in answer to your question, Joe, unless they are very, very rich little boys, very spoilt little boys, no, it's for grown-ups. And it's a bit of it's an interesting one because you'd like to get them out and display them, but you also got to realise that the value is in the fact that it's still in the box in pristine condition.
Yeah.
It is a huge thing worldwide. It's not just in Australia, and it branches off into so many different categories. You got the people that are specific about the Bianchi and the Australian muscle cars. You got the people that are specific about the NHRA and drag racing. I would say that there's rally cars in there, and obviously classic cars. Stanbridges used to have a whole wing that was just cars.
Still do, I think. The last time I went there, they did anyway.
Probably do, yeah. So no, it's not for little boys.
No, I mean Joe knows me, but I always try and invest in race winners. So if you look at my collection, I've got most of the Falcon Bathurst winners from sort of 2000 onwards. Wasn't many of them.
Yeah, I was going to say, how many was that?
But anyway, not that many.
Two.
But there's more than that. But I've also got a Peter Brock VN Group A. That was a Bianchi one, that one, and I think that's gone up in value. But you got to try and pick the model of car as well.
Yeah, with the NHRA ones, I've got a couple of Gary Selzies.
Oh yeah,
obviously he's retired, and I've got a Eric Medlin.
Oh yeah,
he died tragically.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure I've got a Blaine Johnson.
Oh yeah, that'll be worth a bit as well.
You would imagine, yeah. Got a Larry Dixon as well from the heyday.
Yeah, okay.
We've lost some real celebrities in drag racing. Selzy was a classic.
He was great.
Dixon was funding his own team. Is he back in there?
Well, he's got the ban on at the moment, so he's not racing, Larry Dixon.
Oh, yeah. What was that about? Some comments he made or something?
No, about the tech sticker on his two.
That's right, the two-seater tech sticker. That was a bit harsh.
He's got a year off, Larry.
Bit harsh. Anyway.
Michael asks, hey guys, who do you think can top the Ecanoe Racing recent world record pass? Also, what your thoughts on ever seeing someone run into the fours, quarter-mile door car?
Yeah, this is an interesting question, Michael. I think that the potential is there to do it. The secret is, see, there's a lot of ways you can develop. Ultimately, we got two ends to what's going on here. So right, so the end that is important is what the G meter says.
Yeah.
Right. So you want the G meter to stand up, get as high as possible, and hold for as long as possible. So from the hit, as you're traveling down the track, it's slowly diminishing, but you want to try and keep those G's going. Okay. So at the front end of the car, where the action's happening, it's all about turning the crankshaft, and to do that, you need to create the cylinder pressure, right? So obviously, we've got engines that the bottom end can make 10,000 horsepower. The top fuel engines are, making that sort of. Obviously, they have a lot of maintenance, but they are making that kind of power. So I guess the potential is there. It's a matter of keeping the cylinder head on the engine, and I think that some of the new technology that we're using now with aluminium bronze sealing rings and stuff like that, which if you get on the Dandy engines, watch their videos, they show some of the stuff there, which I'm sure Proline uses the same sort of technology. So potentially it's there. Now that you got guys that are openly admitting to, pumping 70 pounds boost into their engines, I don't think it's going to be too long before we start seeing even higher boost levels. And, if you make the horsepower, I think you can do it. A lot of people laughed at me in the late 90s when I asked why no one had run a 5 in a door slammer. I think the quickest anyone had gone was like a 620 or something like that. They thought it was ridiculous. And now, we're in the 560s consistently.
Yeah.
So I think it's doable. And certainly I will say this, that if I had the time and the money, that would be my goal, to try and be the first to run a 4. And that's where you kind of got to go, well, we're not going to have any rules because nothing I build is going to fit any rules. So these are going to be, kind of like what we're doing with the XY, where we have a self-imposed.
Yeah.
I think that the thing still needs to resemble a car, but the Ecanoe one to me is a favourite because it does actually look like a Lexus. It does, yeah. It looks like it just got driven off the showroom.
For those of you that don't know what the Michael might be referring to, it's the Ecanoe's Lexus. It's just ran a 5.379 at 278 mile an hour in Bahrain. It was. If you get a chance, get onto YouTube and you can see the video there. It is amazing.
For those of you that don't really get the significance of that, that is damn close to the top alcohol funny car record, world record. And I think that might even be faster.
I thought the mile an hour was actually down. They were hoping for more mile an hour, but they had some issue with the car. I really need to. I thought they were expecting a bit more mile an hour.
Yeah, well, the back half numbers 1764 from 660 to 1320. That is pretty phenomenal. I mean, to put that in perspective, on a 6.0 run, you generally go 4.0 to half track. So you got 2 seconds in the back half. This is doing in 1.76 in the back half. So, I think that the potential is there to do it. It's just going to need more boost. Just got to smash that boost in there.
Yeah.
And as far as the Motec M150, the management systems that we run, like the MSD Power Grid, have got the ability to control timing in each cylinder individually. We actually were one of the first to do that. So traditionally on a supercharged engine, you will run different compression ratios in each cylinder. Nitro in particular, that's part of the secret to tuning a nitro engine. And the screw-blown engines stagger from one end to the other, and the roots blown deals stagger the other way, because the outlets for the superchargers that are at opposite ends, the screw blower has it at the back, the roots, like a high helix retro case, has it at the front. And you'll notice that they try and move the blowers back. They run super long snouts to try and get that distribution a bit better, so that they can even the nozzling and even the compression ratios up. So when we got the grid approved for use in Top Door Slammer, Brenton Baxter actually got it Andra approved for use in Group 3, and then we pushed to get it approved for Group 1. That was one of the things that we did. We left the compression ratio the same and just changed the timing in each cylinder. So if we saw that we were detonating a cylinder, and the way we measure that is by how much we spread the bearing. Now Shane Tuckerberg tunes this car, and he's a top bloke. If you're ever in the States and he's racing or crew chiefing at a meeting, go and have a chat to him, because he's one of the most approachable people, and he has no secrets. He'll tell you, he'll give you a radial tune-up, so what that guy has been able to do is amazing. But I'll be honest with you, I know what Shane's like. If that car went 530, chances are he's already figured out how to run a 4.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Because he's just that kind of guy.
Now check the video out if you get a chance, because it is amazing and amazingly quick. Warren asks, what are the Graham Cowan boys doing now? You know, Warren, I didn't have a chance to find that out today, but I will endeavour to find out by the next podcast what they're up to.
I don't think they're doing much.
No, but it'd be interesting to know, so we'll put a call out there. Frankie doesn't ask a question, and sorry, Frank, I didn't get a chance to get around and get the flag, but I will get it for the next podcast. My apologies. Stefan asks, and this is not a question, it's more of a statement, but I thought it was a good idea. Just watch part 1 of the XY build. Choosing a car, you guys might be cash poor, but you certainly have the best scrap pile to find all parts in. Maybe a shop tour show might be the go.
Stefan, you haven't seen anything yet. You know, my wife said to me a while back, you need to tell me what you want to sell out of this stuff. And mate, I've got some stuff. You know, I went for a wander the other day, and this is not bullshit, I'm not making this up. I found a Rodeck aluminium small block.
Oh, really?
Underneath a bench, and I went, oh, yeah, I remember buying that, right? So, because I've been thinking about building a turbo car, and, you know, look, I kind of don't like doing things twice. Anyone that knows me knows that generally I'll put it together, and unless something catastrophic happens, it'll just, you know, do what it's got to do. The XY was a classic example of that, because, you know, basically put it together, went to the racetrack, and ran the numbers. I mean, that car did very few passes to get into the 870s, and the only reason that I sold the motor out of it is because I needed to pay off my Visa card. So I'm not big on doing things twice. So I've been thinking about building this turbo deal, and I really would like to build something that, you know, potentially we could take over and race in the US, because that seems like what you do these days to make a bit of a name for yourself. So I found this block, and I was like, all right, well, I think that where we're at horsepower-wise nowadays, if I'm going to try and get a small block to live, I'm going to have to hand make a lot of stuff, right? So kind of what I'm thinking is that the bottom half, the caps to hold the crankshaft in, I'm probably going to try and make something to tie all the caps together, like a girdle, but also the sump.
Yeah, okay.
If you get what I mean.
Yep.
Anyway, so I went upstairs to try and find some XY parts, and you would not believe it. I found a set. Now, no one probably... Frank Salvo's probably the only guy that's going to know what I'm talking about, right? But so the Buick V6 that was in the Commodore, right? Dart thought, you know, that cylinder head design works so good. What we should do is copy it and make a set of heads for a small block Chev, which they did, which are known as the Dart Buick heads. Now, these things are rare as rocking horse shit, right? I found a set of virgin Buick cylinder heads and wait for it, a single 4-barrel intake manifold. stashed away upstairs, which I don't know. I can't even remember buying them. And I've had one intake and exhaust port developed. Because when you buy these heads, there's no real port there. It's just like a bit of a hole. But, maybe we should maybe just dig out a few of these parts and do a bit of a sort of chat about some of this vintage stuff.
Yeah, well, that's Stefan's idea, and I actually like that. So, yeah, Stefan, watch this space, actually.
There is just a plethora of stuff there. It's just, I guess, 30 years of racing, you end up collecting a lot of stuff.
I know, that's right.
A lot of stuff.
Last question we have here. Sorry, it's on my computer because this one's only come through not that long ago. With the drag season finishing up, what would you guys like to see in the next season? That's a good question from Alex there.
Okay, so can I answer this?
Yeah, of course.
All right, so I haven't been down all this season, right? So I am purely going off what the racers have told me and what the spectators have told me. Now, being in the industry that I am, right, I deal with most of the racers down there, and I've spoken to them over the course of this season, and I get a lot of car enthusiasts coming through the shop to get transmissions, gearboxes, etc. And there is a fairly general consensus, right? And I'm gonna offend a lot of people, but I'm just gonna say that this is not what I think. This is what the people think, right? Now, just because you don't agree with this, right, when you're sitting there going, I don't agree with that, that doesn't mean that that's what the general public, doesn't think, right? You'll find that, like when I started racing, I believed that street cars were it, and that if we had a street car class and, the people would come. And I was wrong, because Top Fuel is going to pack the crowds way more than anything else. And Door Slammer would probably be a close second, then maybe Top Bike, then Top Alcohol. I think that that's kind of where we're at. So we need to get more people down there, right? So first things first, let's not talk about the format. Let's talk about the advertising, right? We need to go back to the Con Migro screaming down the microphone, right? And the sound of a blown car doing a burnout, right? We need to do that. We need to put that on 96, on 94, on 92. We need to have the occasional ad, Channel 7, etc., right? We need to sort out this mess between IHRA, Andra, and Thunder, okay? If Thunder's going to run this deal, let them call it Top Door Slammer. Get rid of the IHRA. Make them all Andra tracks again. Sit down and work it out, boys. Sit down and work it out, right? Because right now, all that's happening is Queensland's got their little division. And Sydney's like, it's pretty much just the crew, the local crew that are all mates with each other. And then you got the rest of Australia. So that needs to be sorted out. As far as the format down there, I think that we need to get rid of this Door Slammer, Top Alcohol Eliminator, and just go back to comp, like top comp, like we used to. I think the indexing system needs to be addressed. There was a system that we used to run at Ravenswood that basically it allowed you to be competitive even if you were a little bit slower, as long as you kept getting quicker as the season progressed, right? Because the problem that the guys have with the index system that's in there now is that if you don't reset the national record, you've always got a competitive advantage, right? So then they try to go off the track record. And then that discourages you from running fast. Yeah. Right? And unless you understand how Group 2 racing works, you're probably thinking, what is he going on about? But you need to make it so that everyone's, got an opportunity. Obviously, if you show up with a car that's a heap of shit and it's slow, then, you're not going to win. Sorry. And even with the biggest handicap, you're still not going to win, right? I think Super Street's still working good, right? I was a bit sceptical about the 10.0 cutoff because the 11.0 cutoff made it that you could be at the top end of the field without having a roll cage. But I think there's enough VEs and VFs in there now that it doesn't really, matter. So I think Super Street's working fine. Super Sedan needs to be combined back with Top Sportsman, and because you just haven't got enough cars to spread them over two classes. So get rid of the Pro, whatever, door slammer, summer slammer, or whatever they call it. Get rid of that. Put all those cars back into comp, right? Super stock is the one that you need to talk about. Okay, so that is the class that needs a bit of work. So Andra needs to get involved in this, because this isn't just a problem at a Perth Motorplex level. This is a problem at a national level. So the first thing is the Radial guys, the Turbo LS guys, the Supercharged Coyote guys, the Barra 6 guys. You need to get off your lazy asses and sit down and write rules and submit them to Andra and get these into super stock, because it is cool to see guys go out and run quicker and quicker and quicker, right? You need to be realistic. If your car's slow comparatively, don't whinge about it. Think about how you can make it go faster. Guys like Errol Quartermain never went, we need to change the class. The index is too hard. They just went, you know what? I'll just figure it out. And they got to the pointy end. Now, they were, a bit of a history lesson here, right? When Errol started racing with that 250, D-stroke 250, right? So it was a 250 crossflow, right, with a 200 crankshaft in it. In Chris Mills's old HB Tirana, the car was dangerous, right? Too short, just all wrong. But nonetheless, got that thing into the sevens with that 250 mechanically injected, or 200 it was, mechanically injected. He was up against the Samet brothers. Now, if you're a millennial, you won't know who I'm talking about. But these guys had Nissan genuine parts backing. They had a 300ZX, which was a bloody brand new car.
Yeah,
right?
I remember.
It was state of the art. Peter Samet is a computer guru. He was the Australian agent for Cygnus data loggers, the Cygnus Data Star, which was the data logger to have. They were like 35 grand to buy.
Yeah.
Right? So when you consider it was really David versus Goliath, and they had built 3 engines. I dealt with Peter quite a lot over the years.
So did I. I remember you threw the data logger.
Yeah,
stuff
that's
at me,
right.
and
That's right. Yeah,
I
yeah.
spoke with him numerous times.
So they had 3 RB engines, right? And they never got off the first one. Now, Peter's not racing anymore because he had a prolific crash. I was actually right there. It happened in front of me. Willowbank Raceway used to have where you get off the track, the concrete wall would like veer off to the side, to the left, and then there was a concrete vertical, the end of the other wall, and he ran straight into that it was just, it was horrific. Car was destroyed. He told me that the G meter measured up to 50 Gs.
Jeez.
And it pegged the G meter on impact. So he's lucky he's still alive, and that's why they quit racing. But Errol persisted with that motor and chipped away and chipped away and chipped away. Then he got the money, bought the BA, developed the whole twin cam package, and he has worked so hard. The mechanical injection on that car is all handmade by Errol. So you've got to be realistic that, don't turn around and go, well, that index is too hard. Accept the fact that your car is too slow and you need to develop the car.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what we need to do. We need to get these guys in. We can't make it too easy, because then the existing super stock guys that have worked hard to get to where they are.
Yeah.
And the thing is, you got to realise that with turbo deals, because Andrew in their wisdom have decided to remove the boost limit, because it used to be a 40 PSI boost limit, you can effectively just keep feeding boost into these deals. You know what I mean? Which means that you can use the index system to your advantage because you can keep resetting the record.
Yeah.
One more boost in it, reset the record. More boost, reset the record. So I think that super stock is definitely a class that needs sorting out. And so that's got to be our regular show, right? Then we've got to sit down with Thunder, Andrew, whoever, right, and book the big shows for certain times of the year that don't clash with any other events, right? And you laugh, but I don't think it's that hard. I really don't think it's that hard. And if the other organisers don't want to budge, then, move your event. You know what I mean? You need to just go, all right, when can we have the Western Nationals when there's nothing else on? You know what I mean? When can we have a fuel show, right? Most importantly, we need to make sure that people go there, because if people go there, it's not going to be that hard to get sponsorship. You know?
Yeah. No, the only reason why I laugh is because you're stealing my thunder from the next segment.
Oh, yes. Well, we should move on to that segment. So I hope that answers your question. I think that the streetcar thing and the radial thing and all that stuff is cool. And you gotta believe me when I say that Nick and I, that's where we started. That's what we used to go to the racetrack to see. But we kind of had our blinders on because, we grew up around here, Balcatta, and, that was the thing. You had a hot car and you did burnouts here and there and, you used to race each other and, anyway.
Delaunay Street.
Yeah, Delaunay Street, hang out at Sheldrake and, anyway. So I think it's cool, but it's got to appeal to everyone. You know what I mean? It's got to be able to pack a crowd. We've spoken to the track. For $40,000, you can run an event down there. So if the guys out there that think I'm full of shit and that, radial racing is the future or streetcar racing or whatever. I mean, Poe's done it over on the East Coast. He's doing it, right? So his rules are you got to have steel roof and quarter panel. It's 8th mile and that's it. And it's $50,000 for the win, right? So the opportunity is there for someone to do something like that over here. Now, if you think about it, right, if radial racing's that big, right, social media is your friend in this case because you can market it without spending a cent, right? So I haven't got time to do it. I've thought about it. I just got too much other things. I got all the business commitments, the baby, my wife, Talking Power, Nick, the ex-wife.
I'm a full-time job.
But yeah, that's what I would like to see. But anyway, we need to move on to Nick's new segment.
The new segment is called On the Limiter. It's where Simon or myself get to vent our frustration on something that's happened. Now, I'll get the ball rolling. This week, it's come across new car show or Auto Expo, I guess, rehashed is called the Motor Pavilion. That's going to be on at the Perth Convention and Entertainment Centre on May the 4th, 5th and 6th. They're going to be debuting a whole lot of new cars there, and I think the idea is that if you're in the market for a new car, you can go there, sit in it, have a look at it, and talk to salespeople there. But it's basically an Auto Expo at the old Auto Expo. That's great, and I think that's a good idea. It is on the same weekend as the V8 Supercars in Perth at Barbagallo Raceway,
which is the old Claremont Motor Show. So Nick and I had a bit of a discussion about this earlier, and I said to Nick, you've got to understand that the V8 Supercar market is completely different and disassociated to the Auto Expo market. And here's my reasoning. You've got motor racing is like a pyramid, right? So down the bottom somewhere you've got, I don't know, jet boats, sand draggers, I don't know.
Motorcana.
Motorcana's cool, man. Motorcana's towards the pointy end.
Okay. Sorry to all the Motorcana listeners.
Anyway, so So you've got the bogan factories, like where you can go to a race meeting, compete, and be drunk on the start line. That's kind of getting towards the bottom end, and then you work your way up. So although the people that organise the supercars consider their event to be prestigious, and they have their, VIP tent, and they serve caviar and whatever, a majority of the people there are still drinking beer.
Yeah.
And drive HSV Commodores, right?
Yes.
So the reality is that they're catering to the bogan.
Yeah.
Simple as that, right? Whether that bogan is a multi-millionaire, he probably started, somewhere in Balcatta or Balga or, thereabouts. Whereas the Motor Expo is catering to the Formula One elite people, the people that are going to buy an Aston Martin or a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, and the dreamers, which probably couldn't afford to go to the V8 supercars anyway. So I don't think the two events clash. Anyway, I don't see them as being clashing, but if you think they are...
Oh, and it kicks off our new segment on the Limiter. There you go.
Well, I've got something that's grinding my gears.
All right, go for it.
I don't know if anyone's caught the footage, but a middle-aged man on a disability pension, all right, had the living shit belted out of him by the Victorian police. They haven't released his full name. They're just calling him John at this stage. There's some very, very, very incriminating and confronting video. So the guy had been scared about break-ins in the area, so he set up some surveillance cameras a couple of years ago, and the surveillance cameras captured the whole lot. So basically, he's been coming off some medication, and his healthcare workers were concerned about his health. They hadn't, from what I can understand, they hadn't heard from him, so they rang up the police and sent the police there, and he was quite ill. And he didn't want to let him in because, he felt that there was no need for them to be there. They told him that if he didn't let him in, and you can see this quite clearly, you can see it and hear it in the video. If he didn't let him in, that they were going to break the door down, basically. And he said, so, if I let you in, what are you going to do? And they told him, no, we just want to have a chat. They dragged him down onto the ground and started beating him with a baton. They sprayed him with pepper spray. And then, to add insult to injury, one of the police officers stands on his head, right? This guy's already sick, right? He's got, some issues, some health problems. Okay, so then after they did all of that and they realised that this guy's genuinely sick, they're spraying him with a hose, but I'm not talking like, gentle spray to get the pepper spray out of his eyes. Like, I'm talking, the squirt, whatever that's setting, jet, right? Yep. The jet, yeah. They're spraying him in his eyes with the jet, right? While one of the cops videotapes it and laughing about it. Now, it made me sick to watch it, right? And generally, I understand the police have got a job to do. Okay, but there was like 5 or 6 police officers on this guy, and he didn't look like he could hurt anyone, right? Instead of them being stood down, they're still out there on the beat. Even if the guy swore at the police, okay, which it doesn't sound like it in the video, right? But even if he did, is that threatening to, require that kind of response from the police? This has got to stop, right? Number one, we need to, and this needs to be nationally, Internal Affairs is a waste of time. Shut the whole system down, bring back the ombudsman, right? And get like people that just all their job is to investigate the police, not police officers. Right? Lawyers. Get lawyers, right? So, and give them the power to prosecute. Because this bullshit that you can break the law to try and uphold the law, it's got to stop. It's not on. You can't have a double standard like that.
All right. Well, we end the podcast on a very hot potato. That one. So
political hot potato.
That's a hot one. All right, go to iTunes, Stitcher, Podbean, SoundCloud, Facebook. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Yes.
Before we go, there's been a lot of people reaching out asking, if we need anything.
There's heaps of people. I
Yeah.
talk to you about that off air.
Yeah. I think there's going to be some things that we're going to need. Right now, it's really just a time thing because I'm sort of struggling. If there's anyone out there that wants to learn how to build automatic transmissions, please give me a call at the office. If there's any young kids that listen to the show that are looking for weekend and after school work, give me a call because I really need a hand. Because and as far as videos go, there's two videos that I want to do for the business. One is the C4 builds because we do we've got the C4s living over 1,000 horsepower now, and there's some pretty cool stuff that goes on to making them live at that power level, and a Turbo 400. We're doing some big horsepower Turbo 400 stuff. The only problem with the Turbo 400 stuff is that there is so many variations on what you can do. So you've got the sort of basic run-of-the-mill, $2,800 ones that we do for 850 horsepower street strip type deal. And then when you get right up the top end where you're using the M&M transmissions, the Mark Mickey components, for something like what he runs in his car, that's probably 30, plus $1,000 transmission. It's kind of, and the other thing is when you're building them at that level, you kind of don't really want everyone to see what's going on in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, stay tuned because fingers crossed I'll be able to tee it up that I'm putting together some transmissions at the same time as you're available to do some.
Definitely.
And we'll do another video like the Power Glide one. That was well received. I think it's like over 100,000 views or something. Yeah. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Now, we also have a couple of new sponsors that have come on board for the XY build. Monster Talk, they've come on board. And Benzene Detailing.
Yeah, Rob came past today, actually.
Oh, okay.
He's looking forward to getting it on the hub dynos. So
Rob's and and there's been some generous offers of assistance in tracking down parts as well from numerous people. Which,
the only drama that I've got is because I would like to, if it's at all possible, take this thing to drag challenge. Would be cool to be able to do that. Now, we haven't released the video yet, but we've kind of got everything dummied up at the front of the engine. And the amount of room that we've got for a radiator is minimal. Very, very, very minimal. So I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to make this work. When it's on methanol, it's not a problem, but I don't know whether we can do thousands of kilometres through the Australian outback.
I think it was problematic just in drag challenge alone. The ethanol stops, let alone driving across Australia. I don't think it'd be possible.
Yeah. So if anyone's got a counterclockwise mag drive / fuel pump extension setup. Even a clockwise one. The clockwise one we can run the Dizzy setup that I've got on there now. The counterclockwise I can put a magneto on it. If anyone's got anything like that they think I can use, so it's a 90-degree drive that comes off the fuel pump drive. Let us know. Get in touch because I'm not gonna. I haven't got the money to go out and buy one just to see if it's going to fit. You know what I mean? So,
yep.
But if I've got one I can borrow, because what we've got now is we're coming out of the camshaft, right? And then we've got a short jack shaft, and then we've got a belt drive that runs a distributor. And we found I haven't I haven't dragged it out, but I know where it is. There's an MSD8.
Oh, yeah.
So that should be enough ignition to run the blown engine. But anyway, we'll get there. I mean, I'm looking forward to just hearing it run again.
It'll be great.
Should be fun.
So, and that brings me to my final point is the video, the XY video. It only came out yesterday at 12 o'clock, and we've had a great response to that. Like, it's well over. It's almost getting up to 1,500 views, actual views of the video, and the response and the commentary have been quite uplifting, actually. So I must thank everyone that's, for your kind words and the commentary that's gone along with it as well. And yeah,
And even the last podcast, I had a lot of racers and spectators contact me, even officials, just saying that, don't worry about any negative feedback. That's how we all feel. We think that what's happened now is that the racers are controlling what's going on. And, you can blame the downturn in the economy all you want. The reality is that people don't like the show anymore.
Yeah.
So, and I don't want to, I think Ray's doing the best job he can, but if you're constantly being pressured to do things a certain way, getting your balls broken, basically, is how the Italians would say it, you're going to give in. And I think that's what's happened at this stage. Yep. So I hope that next season will be interesting to see what happens. I mean, like I said, don't get me wrong, I think that I had a good think about it on the way here, and I think the Radial racing is kind of like the door slammer deal in its infancy. But remember, we've been down this road once before with the 10.5 Outlaw.
Yeah, we did, yeah.
And that went nowhere. Went nowhere. Actually, ended up being like a complete waste of time for people that invested in it. Some people would argue, well, the Radial racing's going spastic in the US, and 10.5 has died over there. Yeah, I'll go with that. But, you don't know what's around the corner, because I'll tell you now, my mate over there was telling me that the big thing now is this steel roof and quarter panels. No rules, run where you brung. As long as it's got a steel roof and quarter panels, you're in. And he reckons you can get a $10,000 race at least once a month in any state.
Yeah, yeah.
So...
So obviously Poe's picked up with something there and running with that. That's fully subscribed, that field, by the way.
Yeah, it was straight away. It was 100%. And there are some tough cars, like there are guys actually building cars specifically for the event. So the thing in America is that you've got a lot of old pro mod style cars that aren't competitive nowadays, but in this steel they are, and they look cool because they still look like,
road going cars.
Well, Mark Mickey's car is eligible.
Yeah.
That's steel roof and quarter panels.
So get onto if you're not on Facebook, get onto the Facebook and like the Grudge Kings page, and each day Poe is releasing the next cars. So it was I think he's up to number 5 today, or number 6 of the 32 cars that'll be entering, and you get a fair idea of the cars that are out there.
Poe's deal, I mean, you want the info, you just jump on there. It's
That's
there,
right,
it's in your face. So he's very good at marketing. That makes the big difference between something being successful and something not being successful.
Yeah.
So you take Donald Long, he's very good at marketing, right? They spend a lot of time, and Stevie Fast has been a huge asset to those guys.
Yeah.
And this is the other thing too. We need to remember that Stevie Fast has been at the pointy end of a lot of this, from the 470s right up to the 360s, right? He's been a leader, and he's done it with nitrous combos, with centrifugal blown, Procharger deal, roots, screw blower. So that guy there is a bit of a guru, right? He is very, very, very good at shit stirring, right? Yeah. And his background, for those of you that don't know, was grudge racing, right? So, he would call you out. He'd ring you up and say, "Your car's a heap of shit. I'm going to blow your doors off, right? I'll bet $5,000 to your $1,000. Kiddies, remember." stepping stone. All right, that's it. I'm done.
On that note, we'll tie up. Oh, number 6. 6 of 32 was your friend Tony Rigoli today. That's why I was just trying to remember who number 2 was.
Yes. Now there you go.
He's
300 ZX RB30. I think I mentioned this last time.
Yeah.
You know what RB stands for?
Yeah, Rigoli Brothers.
Rigoli Brothers.
Yep.
Right. So they have gone 430. They have gone 430 to half track. It is an 8th mile deal. If you didn't know, Grudge Kings is an 8th mile deal. There's that Radial Mustang that's entered.
Pretty cool as well.
I don't know, it'll be interesting to see because I don't know how many guys. I don't know. I would like to sit down and look at that list and see the cars.
Oh, he's releasing them day by day.
Yeah,
so
I just don't get the time, Nick.
I'll send you a debrief.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll over the next few segments. over the next few episodes, we'll have
We'll have to get bi-weekly
bi-weekly
as well, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep. All right, everyone. As I said, get to us on iTunes, Stitcher, Podbean, SoundCloud, Facebook. Go to our YouTube channel. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We can have a crack at this if we get the viewership behind us. All right. Thanks, Simon, for coming in.
Thanks, Nick.
Take care.
See you on the street.
See ya.
Talk and Power stresses all characters and events on this podcast, even those based on real people, are entirely fictional. All celebrity voices are impersonated poorly. We do not encourage street racing or the use of turbochargers.